able to claw back in a couple times?
I mean, there's a lot of things that stood out. I think being able to contain the basketball is probably the most difficult thing for our team right now.
I assume, is there a magic bullet solution to ball containment, or is this going to be a marginal improvement in 6 or 7 different areas it's going to take to figure this out?
Yeah, I think you can get better at that. You get better with our shifts. I mean, there's the things that help you win on the margins we're just not very good at right now. And we got to ask a little bit more of everybody. We don't crash. We can't force a lot of turnovers. We did a terrible job at the end of the first quarter and the second quarter of end of quarter stuff. So that immediately we're behind the 8 ball there. And if a team shoots well, we're going to be really in trouble.
Before the game, we talked about just sort of the nature of like overreaction and stuff like that. When you guys have had losses, like it has felt like a lot of the weaknesses are like really highlighted. Is that how you felt as you kind of like, it's like, this is everything that's wrong with us and it kind of shows up?
Yeah, but I mean, teams have, there's, very few teams don't have something that you can expose. And, we've consistently got exposed at the same things.
Marcus, the shooting was one thing, but just what did he bring defensively that you guys really maybe have missed in the last few games since he's been gone? Especially in the second quarter.
I think he came in with a lot of energy, couple, sort of rush possessions offensively, but in terms of the try and care factor defensively, definitely had it, and then was able to make some shots in the second half.
Obviously, Marcus' output was encouraging as far as the rest of the bench. Like, none of those guys got multiple shots. Like, what more do you want to see with given you having a full deck outside of Maxey? What more do you want to see from those other guys to help complement your starters better?
Yeah, Jake played 8 minutes. Gabe got 1 shot. We've had a couple of these games, Rui included, tonight getting 4 shots. It was similar in that way to like the Phoenix game where they're playing in a deeper drop and sort of forcing Luka, AR to shoot those non-rim paint 2s, not putting 2 on the ball and not having to rely on the low man because they've got Luke Cornett and Mark Williams. So there's no, weak side stuff. So, in terms of starting the blender, that's the coverage that, kind of allows teams to play 2-on-2 against us. Had a little success with Stack in the first half. We got to figure that out for sure.
JJ, it seems like through the first 3 quarters, nothing was really coming easy for Austin. What did you see from him tonight in terms of how he's trying to manufacture things for himself and the team?
Yeah, look, the reality is the guy's carried us for 6 weeks, and that takes a toll on you. And he kept fighting, and I appreciate that. But he's going to have a lot more great nights than frustrating nights.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Mark, you've been out a few weeks. Just how did you feel physically out there, and what do you hope that you were able to bring to this team?
You out for a while. That win, trying to get your wins, a little tough, but got going a little bit. Felt good. The back felt really good. Body felt good. I just wanted to bring a little spark for us. Tried to do the best of my ability. And sometimes you can do that and have games like this where you don't win. So, but all in all, everything for me felt good. Wish the outcome was different.
Defensively, where do you think this team is right now, especially after this game? This is a pretty difficult matchup just with how young and athletic this team is, the Spurs are.
Yeah, I think we just, right now, we're obviously, we haven't been where we wanted to be. Coming back from the East Coast, long trips. We just got to refocus, got to recalibrate. Right now, we're kind of droggy. And, we're seeing it out there. We feel it as players, the coaching staff, and I'm sure the fans feel it too. But yeah, we just got to recalibrate, and that's really it. We're going to get it together, but right now we're trying to find it and trying to find where we need to go.
So, Marcus, I've seen you hit 11 threes in a game before. This season you came in 25%. Like, what made you feel, what was different about tonight where you was able to hit 8 threes compared to the other games that we saw so far this season?
For me, I just continue to work, and I trust the work that I'm putting in, and I continue to put in that. Eventually shots are going to fall. I can't control whether the shot goes in or not. All I can do is control how I prepare, and that's to make the shot. And I've been doing it, everything right. Tonight was a night for me, and hopefully that starts, a trend for me to start making some shots consistently.
Marcus, you had 26 points tonight off the bench, but the bench scoring was kind of a problem the rest of the way. What can be done to kind of get the rest of the guys going and get more consistent production from the reserves?
It's tough out there. We got a lot of great guys that can score the ball, and make plays. So I guess for us as the bench guys, we just got to find our way within those parameters that we have, and try to find those shots. It's tough, but we got to find a way.
Hey, Marcus, they kind of made spurts there, to jump out ahead, and you guys come back and they jump out ahead again. What did you see out there that kind of helped them make those runs?
For one, I lack of communication. This team does a really good job, when it comes to in the open court and transition, and they got one of the fastest players in the league with Fox. So we just didn't do a good job of getting back and communicating with one another, and we got to fix that. That's going to be key for us. When we can get people in the half court, set our defense, it makes it easier on us. When we got to get out and run and chase from behind, it makes it a lot harder.
Marcus, in terms of coming off the bench, I think Rui talked about this morning. It was like sometimes you don't get the ball, but you have to be ready to make the most of your opportunities. You've started in this league, you've come off the bench in this league. Just how do you do that? How do you always have that mindset to get ready?
Just control what I can control. Rui's right. It's tough, and I don't think people really recognize and understand how tough that is. Not really knowing, if you're going to start, you're coming off the bench, how many minutes you're going to play, and then also, are you going to get the ball, to make an impact on the offensive end, and then, you get out there and you don't, and it's like, well, what am I doing out here? And you got to figure it out, and, like you said, you got to make the best of your opportunities, and it is tough, but we got to figure it out. That's why we're professionals, and for me, it's just control what I can control. That's been my motto. And anybody knows me, you guys know it. I can only control what I can control, and I can't control whether or not I get the ball. If I'm open, I'm doing my job. If the ball doesn't come to me, that's something I can't control. I got to figure it out how to put myself in the position again to be open and do my job, and hopefully everybody else can do their job to find open men. So just control what you can control.
Marcus over here. You guys. They go on a 17-2 run in the first and the second quarter. A close game, a game that you had led at one point, suddenly bleeds into a 20-point lead for them. And it seems like in that stretch, there's a lot of turnovers on your guys' side, a lot of missed shots. Like you said, they're not getting back on defense. And, a little run for them turns into a really big run that you're chasing the rest of the game. And that's happened, I think, to this team a few times throughout the season. How do you stop that from turning a small wound into, a big gash and bleeding and a small lead into it?
We're going to have to look at ourselves. We're going to have to really sit down with ourselves and figure that out. We got whatever it takes, This is a league where, unfortunately, those things can happen. Everybody's good and everybody's working on their game and everybody wants to win, and especially playing against us. Anytime you come here and you play against the Lakers, we're going to get everybody's best shot. So we really got to have to look ourselves in the mirror and figure out what we want to do. We're going to lay down and get punked, or we're going to fight back. And I'm not the one to lay down and get punked, so hopefully we can find a way to fight back. Thank you, guys.
LeBron, JJ mentioned that the kind of on-ball, perimeter defense has been a thing throughout the season. And where do you think that can get better, and what needs to happen for the team as the season goes on?
5 guys being on the string. Obviously, can't do it, individually, by yourself. It has to be 5 guys on the string. Communication, always at an all-time high. letting you know what's going on behind you and things of that nature. Obviously, I mean, it's a unique team. They got 6 guys that can literally, 6 or 7 guys that can break you down off the dribble. You know, super fast, super quick. Some of them are stronger, some of them are faster, some of them are quicker ball handlers. So, unique team, and they definitely, got the best of us tonight.
You also mentioned the defensive coverage is maybe a little bit similar to how Phoenix played, where they're keeping the big and the deep drop and kind of encouraging those two. As you guys get more, reps, which you haven't had a ton of altogether this year, what are some of the ways to dissect that?
I think we did a great job in the second half with it. I think obviously Marcus coming in and really playing that position. You know, they was guarding with the 5 a lot, and he finally started to get his rhythm. And just we was knocking him down, so that was a bright spot for us.
You got the dunk. Did you think that was going to give you guys the spark to kind of keep them going forward, or was it just a moment in time?
No, it's just a play. You always hope that momentum plays will carry over. And I mean, that was a moment where we had an opportunity. We had 2 straight turnovers after that, and went from an 8-point game to a 12-point game in the half. So we did have some momentum going into the halftime, and then started the third. We went back down 20.
Seemed like that small ball group you guys had in the fourth. You guys cut it into the deficit again. What did you see from that group, and what did you like from
No, we was playing uphill too long. So we had some good moments, but for the majority, we playing uphill too much.
I think you liked playing the cup tournament. So it's not.
Say it again.
You like the format of the cup tournament, not playing for the championship. I mean, bummer is that for you?
I don't care. I mean, cup, no cup. I love playing basketball, so it doesn't give me extra excitement to playing or not playing. I think it's just great, to have a moment. I mean, if it is what it is, so I love just going out and competing.
LeBron, you guys had some of the similar sort of on-ball containment issues.
Say it again?
You had similar on-ball containment issues last year.
Yeah.
And then right around Christmas or so, it felt like your defensive energy and voice really picked up, and that's when the team's defense sort of came together. Do you feel like that's something you're capable of again, and is that what's going to be needed of you?
Yeah, I think we're still young in the season for us, and we're going to continue to get better. I think defensively, we understand that on-ball attack is very important, but first getting back in transition, we can't give up a lot of transition points as we did tonight, and then being able to contain guys off the dribble. So we will continue to get better with that, more film, more communication, like I said, and just ultimately just helping each other out.
2 years ago when you guys made it to Vegas and won it in the Cup, you kind of cautioned that team still had a long way to go, and it's not necessarily an indicator of what you could do months down the line. Losing here and not making it to Vegas, where do you think you guys are at in terms of the long-term goal of being able to compete in the playoffs and deep into the playoffs?
It's December what? Are you talking about the playoffs? Nah, I can't do that. It's not okay. Not my mindset. I can't think about what we can do in the playoffs in December. What I can say is that, the habits that we built throughout the regular season each month, if we are in a position to make it to the postseason and be able to get to that point, well, we have to build it now. So, but as far as talking about what type of damage we can do in the postseason in December, it's not right for the basketball gods, not for me.
Obviously, you want to play in every game, but does a little bit of added rest benefit you long term?
For me, yeah, of course.
You guys typically are on the positive end of free throw disparity. What did you kind of think of that tonight? Did you feel like you guys were fouling too much?
Yeah, we had some times where we fouled. We had some uncharacteristic fouls. We had some couple times where we was stripping at the ball, not showing our hands. We had a couple times where we, fouled in transition, whatever the case may be. There was a couple plays where I could have went, one or the other way, but actually, that's the name of the game right there. Sometimes you get the whistle, sometimes you don't.
Thanks, LJ.
Thank you, guys.
Austin, for this game specifically, kind of the way that San Antonio is playing defense, JJ mentioned, is a little bit similar to the coverage that Phoenix used, like keeping the big real deep in the drop and, almost encouraging you and Luka to take those tough, deep paint twos. You're going to see Phoenix again Sunday. Where can you guys grow a little bit, and did you feel like you started to solve that a little bit in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I feel like, we just played better in the fourth quarter. I think it's, we know what we need to do. We just got to execute it.
Defensively, the other thing that seems to come up a lot is just the on-ball, defense as a team. LeBron said it's got to be 5 guys on a string, and there can be growth there. But what did you see tonight in terms of the on-ball defense?
Just had to be better. Like Brown said, you got to guard. You know, there's so much talent in this league. You got to guard everybody with 5 people. So just had to be better.
Austin, I know it's only early in the season, but how are you feeling physically right now?
Good. Yeah.
Are you aware that you carried a big load for the team and maybe it's taking a little bit of a toll on you, or is it just missing shots right now?
No, I mean, just didn't get the ball to go in the basket.
Coming into the night, I think you guys were ranked 27th in opponent field goal percentage from 3, and then they hit 17 tonight, shot 45% or something like that. Do you feel like that's been a problem area that you guys have been trying to work on all year, or has it been like fits and starts where it's looked good and then kind of slipped back to being more of a weakness?
I mean, if we're 27th, it has been a strength, so we'll have to get better in that aspect. Yeah, I mean, teams make shots against us. We had to make them not make shots.
How critical was that stretch at the end of the first half? Brown had that dunk, cut it to 8, but then a couple turnovers, a couple buckets, pushed it to 12 at intermission.
I mean, it just wasn't good for us. That's a hell of a play by a 41-year-old man. Impressive, but it didn't. I don't know. It wasn't good for us. It was 12. We lost.
For you guys, big picture defensively, just based on like the personnel in this room, it's going to have to be, it seems like, a team-based approach. I guess, where are you guys at in that process? How much more room for growth do you feel like there is when it comes to defensive continuity and understanding and reliability on one another?
I think there's a lot of room for growth, especially, like Dave said, 27th and what is it, Phil? 3. Yeah, so that's a weakness we got to get better at, and the spirit's still high in here. We know we can do it, but like you said, we have to be a group that guards with 5 people, and once again, like Bron said, we got to be on a string and no rotations, and just play hard on that end.
Hey, Luka, one thing that JJ mentioned, kind of the similarity between how Phoenix and San Antonio were playing with a big and a deep drop, and started trying to and not blitzing, right, and trying to force you and Austin into certain shots. Did you agree with that and kind of see that coverage, and what's a way to counter that?
Yeah, I mean, they were playing that coverage, but I think it was more defensively today. They were just driving us. We scored 120 points, so I think it's enough to win. We just gotta guard better.
Yeah, that was the other thing you meant, just the kind of the ball pressure and on the perimeter. Where and how can you guys get better on defense in that sense?
I mean, they were just going downhill, drive and kick. They scored, I think, like 10 3-pointers in the first half. They got up pretty quickly, so we just each one of us gotta guard better. Not let your guy drive it that way.
Obviously, Marcus was brought in with a defensive reputation, and that was part of the reason why you guys would want him. When I asked him about kind of the defensive perimeter issues thus far, he was like, we really haven't had the group together yet, and when you're trying to play 5 guys on a string, it has to be knowing that camaraderie and kind of where the other guy's going to be. Do you think that is like a basic tenet of what can get this team better, just the experience with the guys together as the games go on, considering you haven't necessarily had that over the first 24 games?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously Smart, everybody knows why we brought him. Obviously he had a great offensive game too, but he brought the energy of the bench. When he guards, when he talks to us, we listen to him. So, just gotta be a little more, see what he's doing, trying to be better on defensive end. We gotta figure out being better on defensive end for sure.
How, understanding that every team is different and all situations are unique, but just generally speaking, how long does it take to build a team defense?
I don't know.
Is this going to be
2 weeks?
I mean, is it? But I mean, is it one of those things? Like, I mean, do you have to play like 30, 40 games together? Like, I mean, is it that big of an undertaking, or can it happen quicker than that?
I mean, obviously it can happen quicker, but like we know in NBA is 82 games, so I won't say we got time, but we need to figure out pretty quickly. I think our record is pretty good, 17-7. That's pretty good to start, but I feel like we can be so much better than this.
Luka, obviously a lot of minutes tonight for you, 40 minutes. But when you go to the bench and you see your team trying to figure it out on both ends of the floor, like what do you see when you're on the bench and you're seeing your team trying to be better? Because it was a struggle tonight when you went to the bench second quarter and fourth quarter.
I mean, I wasn't that good either, so I think it's just team effort. I'm comfortable on the bench. We have so many players that can do so many different stuff, so I'm comfortable seeing. You know, in other games they made the run. In other games, when I'm on the court, we made the run. So I think just we have a group that can do it. We just got to figure out.
Understanding that the time and the score was what it was in the fourth quarter when you guys were using that small ball lineup, is there anything you could take away or moving forward with that group? You guys, I think, cut it maybe like 8 when you guys were playing centerless. Is there anything you guys can learn or moving forward?
Yeah, I think they were pretty good minutes. I think we cut it down to 9 or 8 after being down with 24, I think. So those were pretty good minutes. You know, everybody was hustling. They had Cornet on the floor. Everybody needed to box out. And then from there, we just run. You know, we were probably faster in the small lineup. So I think there were some pretty good minutes. Thank you.